If nature has a crown, then these are its jewels, the Maldives. The wildlife glitters, the waters sparkle, and the beaches shine. Those who love water sports will be spoilt for choice, with diving and jet skiing, sailing and water skiing on offer. There are private beaches and warm waters for gentle relaxation, or more energetic activities to suit every taste. And with famously spectacular marine life, a trip to the Maldives will offer you a taste of paradise. Take an ultimate journey to an idyllic island breakaway. Scattered in the Indian Ocean, about 700 kilometers southwest of Sri Lanka, lie 26 atolls formed by tropical corals growing around volcanic islands. This is the Republic of Maldives. There are nearly 2,000 islands in total, but only 200 are inhabited. Of these, 87 cater for tourists, so visitors have no shortage of paradise islands to choose from. The Maldives meet every expectation of a typical picture postcard island paradise. Warm tropical waters, miles of white beaches dotted with palm trees, luxurious resorts, and mouth-watering food. In hotels designed for natural luxury, you can relax and pamper yourself and live out a fairy tale fantasy. With an infinity pool where the water appears to sweep straight out to the Indian Ocean, you could be forgiven for thinking you see mermaids. With all of these natural ingredients, a trip to the Maldives is above all a recipe for romance. On Rangali Island, Kirsten and David from America still can't quite get used to waking up with a sea view and petal-strewn bed. Their bungalow, built on stilts, hovers just above the sea, and inside is a carpet of water. Kirsten and David still can't believe how wonderful it all is.
I actually can't wait to just get into the water. It's so beautiful and clear.
Waking up in the morning to Indian Ocean, a fantastic breakfast. It's out of this world. It's priceless.
It's everything that you never thought existed. Look at the photos, it's better.
Tourists can go scuba diving from most of the Maldives island resorts. The dive centers cater for all levels of experience, as well as offering both beginner and refresher courses. The staff can also kit people out with all the equipment they need. Kirsten can't wait to dive. And there is one creature she's desperate to see above all others.
I've dived in the Maldives before, but I never got to see mantas. Lots of turtles and other fun things, but I've never seen mantas before. So I hear that they are really huge, and this is a really popular spot for mantas, so I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I'm lucky today.
The couple head out to sea on a traditional Maldivian fishing boat called a dhoni. Just 20 minutes away from Rangali Island is a site famous for its manta rays, called appropriately Manta Point. Some divers see up to 10 mantas on a single dive here. Just below the surface, the waters seem to explode with life and color. It's difficult to know which way to look. Catching their eye is an endangered green sea turtle. Marine turtles migrate vast distances, using the Earth's magnetic fields to navigate. Adult females usually nest on the very same beaches where they themselves hatched. Sea turtles contribute to two main ecosystems. Their diet helps keep the seabed healthy, and they also contribute to the natural balance of beaches. They are, though, at great risk of extinction. No sooner has the turtle slipped away than Kirsten spots her first manta, cruising over the coral. She knew they were big, but it still stops her in her tracks. Mantas are the largest of the rays, and they can grow to an impressive 7 meters in length on a diet of microscopic plankton that live in the water. These gentle giants come here for their daily grooming routine. Small fish called cleaner wrasse swim up and nibble any parasites and other bits from the manta's skin. The mantas stay healthy, the wrasse enjoy a snack, and the divers are ecstatic.
Wow. That was awesome!
amazing. I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good dive. Oh,
Beautiful.
amazing.
Oh, the mantas!
For those who prefer to stay dry, there is another way to enjoy the underwater displays. The couple intend to eat in 3 amazing restaurants, and they begin with Ite, the first all-glass undersea restaurant ever built. At 5 meters below sea level, diners can enjoy 270-degree views of the surrounding coral, while they eat a fusion of traditional Maldivian dishes with a Western twist.
The food is exquisite, but you know, aside from that, if you look at the surroundings, to eat in a place like this just broadens the experience so much more.
Oh, I love marine life, and I think just to be in this type of atmosphere for a dinner, for lunch, is something I would never think that I would ever do. It's amazing.
It must be the only restaurant in the world where passers-by don't walk, but float. This is the perfect place to relax. The weather in the Maldives is warm all the year round, and David and Kirsten soon get into the swing of things. The secluded beaches rarely get crowded, so it's like having your own private beach.
I got you.
Soon, though, they are ready for the next adventure. It's time for them to get wet again. David's no pro, but he manages to stay up until the arm ache gets too much.
Oh, it's awesome. It's been a long time since I've done it, and let me tell you, it's a lot more strenuous than you think, at least from what I remember. My arms are killing me, but no, a lot of fun.
I'm really nervous.
Better hold on tight.
In spite of her wobbly start, Kirsten hangs on and even manages to finish with a flourish. To celebrate the end of another great day, they book into their second unusual restaurant, a wine cellar. The most exclusive wines here fetch a staggering $20,000 a bottle. David and Kirsten treat themselves to one of the more affordable ones. They can still enjoy the luxurious atmosphere, though, and high-class personal waiting service. The next morning, Kirsten and David wake up aching all over after the strenuous water skiing. Luckily, the island has just the thing to help them out: a spa. Moments later, Kirsten is under the professional hands of one of the spa's specially trained therapists, easing her aches away. The massage is so delicious, Kirsten has difficulty staying awake.
This is really good because I had such pain in my neck, and now it's just beautiful. Fading away, melting away.
The relaxation is not over yet. Once David has had his massage, the couple rinse off the body oil in a luxury bathtub. Then it's time for the third and last amazing restaurant location, on a yacht. Champagne at sea, a glorious sunset off a tropical island. It couldn't get more romantic. David and Kirsten celebrate a holiday that has exceeded their wildest dreams. They always knew it would be great, but these memories will stay with them forever. They wanted romance, and romance they got. Buckets of it. Ocean romances cause another very special creature to visit the Maldives. These rare prehistoric creatures, which can live more than 100 years, drag themselves out of the ocean to lay their eggs on the beaches of North Malé Island. Very few green sea turtles survive to adulthood, and those that do are at risk of being killed by humans, but they have a firm friend in the shape of Abdulaziz.
This turtle research project we are having in Banyan Tree, Babimfaru, this aim of this project is to study the biological behavior of the turtles and to measure how big they become within 1 year.
In the wild, only about one hatchling in every 1,000 survives to adulthood. Abdul, who is from the Maldives, takes the hatchlings into captivity and cares for them until they're about a year old, when they will be much more likely to survive in the open ocean. Every day, the turtles are checked for signs of disease and stress, and once a month, they're measured and weighed to make sure that they're thriving. Once Abdul has finished his checks and notes, he puts the turtles back into their nursery cage, which involves wading out to sea. In the wild, turtles feed on floating seaweed beds which may contain shrimps and crabs, or even bits of jellyfish. Here, though, they feast on a mixture of raw fish, tuna roe and leafy vegetables given to them 3 times a day. The cage is big, but Abdul has plans to build an even bigger enclosure for his tiny turtles. Helping the turtles is just one of Abdul's imaginative environmental projects. In 1998, a sudden rise in water temperature caused by the El Niño weather phenomenon resulted in mass coral bleaching. Within 2 weeks, a century of coral growth was destroyed in the Maldives, as in other parts of the world. One way to counteract this devastation was to build metal structures in the ocean. Abdul monitored these as floating coral larvae settled on the frames and multiplied, slowly adding their calcium skeletons to the framework. Now, all sorts of marine animals congregate among these artificial reefs, and Abdul keeps a close eye on the slow-growing corals and even cleans them with a soft toothbrush. Now, entire ecosystems owe their existence to the dedicated work of this one man whose work has since become internationally renowned.
I want to give something back to the nature. We take so much from the sea and we don't give anything back to the sea. So one of my aims is to give something back to the sea in the form of corals and also in form of living creatures.
Abdul's passion for the ocean is contagious. This is a man on a mission to help the marine life in the Maldives. By acting locally, he makes a difference globally. Abdul's work started as a labor of love in 1981, but word of his conservation initiatives spread, and he now runs his own research laboratory and team of international scientists.
Morning, Alex.
Good morning,
How are you? Everything okay?
Everything's fine. Okay.
His projects have since won almost 20 international awards for contributions made towards the environment and ecotourism. But the wonderful corals of the Maldives still hold a special place in his heart, and it was the shock of nearly losing them that galvanized him into action in the first place.
From the Veron's textbook and see exactly what it's... I have a passion for this, and I love the ocean. I grew up here on these islands, and I have seen how the El Niño killed the corals. I never believed that this could happen. I thought coral bleaching was just a minor event, and when 1998, when the El Niño hit us, it hit us really bad. It killed in certain areas about 80–90% of the coral.
During El Niño, the rise in water temperature deprived the polyps, the tiny animals that build the coral, of essential nutrients. They died en masse. With no polyps to feed on, none of the other marine animals could survive here either. After El Niño, the only thing that remained was acres of coral skeletons, a coral graveyard. Abdul suddenly saw that we can't take corals for granted.
Then only I realized that no, these corals aren't going to be there forever, and unless we do something to protect them, to help them to survive.
Scientists tried various methods to try to save the remaining reefs. One of the more unusual is coral transplants. Divers stick living coral to dead coral using special marine cement. It takes about 4 hours for the cement to harden. In the past few years, more than 70% of the transplanted corals have not only survived, but thrived. Some are devoured by marine predators such as snails and starfish, but Abdul and his team do everything they can to help the corals survive.
Every month, all the staff would go around the island and remove all the garbage and crown of thorn that eats the coral. And we remove this animal so that the little baby corals have a chance to grow up.
In terms of the coral wrecking, one predator reigns supreme. It is the crown of thorns starfish. There has been a massive increase in the numbers of this ruthless predator since the 1970s. It's not clear why this has happened, but marine scientists have their theories. In normal circumstances, coral polyps would eat the eggs of these starfish, helping to keep the crown of thorns in check. But an increase in algal blooms caused by global warming means a glut of algae for the coral polyps. As a result, they eat fewer starfish eggs, causing the population of this menace to boom. The adult crown of thorns preys exclusively on coral, mainly at night. It climbs up, extrudes its stomach over the coral, and releases digestive enzymes to then absorb the liquefied tissue. The toxic spines mean that the crown of thorns has no predators. This little crab, probably feeling threatened by the terrifying spiked apparition, fights its corner. Defeated, the starfish eventually moves on to the next coral. Every single one can destroy 6 square meters of coral reef every year. To counteract this devastation, scientists laboriously pick the crown of thorns off the reef, one by one. They record details about each starfish in the hope that this data may lead to a better way of controlling this pest. In spite of these huge problems, Abdul remains optimistic.
Within the last 5 years, what I have noticed is also how quickly the reef is regenerating. This is amazing. It is regenerating faster than most scientists thought of.
Abdul's team came up with another imaginative way to protect the local coral reef. This took a wonderful, very practical but unexpected shape, an underwater lotus flower. It consists of a metal structure 2 meters high and 12 meters wide in the shape of a giant lotus flower. The divers dropped this on the slope of one of the reefs. The open flower shape maximizes the surface area exposed to the sun, boosting the activity of the algae that help the polyps to grow. The structure also uses a unique invention called mineral accretion, which allows a very low voltage to flow through the metal structure. Scientists found that sending a low current through the corals not only accelerates growth and reproduction, but also makes the corals healthier and more colorful. When the structure was first installed, The divers tied or wedged fragments of live coral to the frame. Within weeks, the coral had cemented firmly to the frame. Coral larvae, tiny, free-swimming baby corals, now have a place where they can safely settle and grow, all under the care of Abdul and his team.
And so this has become a nursery for resistant species of corals. It is like having plant nurseries. I think what we need today are nurseries underwater, so that we can monitor these nurseries so that the corals can grow and breed, and it would accelerate the growth rate of these corals.
Abdul has witnessed nature clothe his bare metal structure with fresh, living coral. It just shows what a big difference one person can make. Not far from the peace of this underwater reef lies the capital, Malé. Of the 300,000 or so people who live in the Maldives, almost a third live here in Malé, within just 1.8 square kilometers. This is a vibrant and lively metropolis, typical of a tropical island, with the bustling markets, brisk trade and buzzing atmosphere you would expect. By noon, the fishing boats, or donis, begin to arrive back at the harbour. The fishermen deliver their night's catch to the fish market on the northern waterfront. They lay their catch down on the floor tiles, which are washed and disinfected every day. The catch consists mostly of tuna. Before long, the open-sided market has a carpet of fresh fish. Those who clean and fillet the fish do so with practiced ease. The bustle of the fish market couldn't be more different to the mood inside one of Malé's other famous public buildings. A golden dome stands atop the Grand Friday Mosque. This is the biggest mosque in the Maldives. It can accommodate almost 5,000 worshippers. With its beautiful wood carvings and Arabic calligraphy, it features high on many tourists' itinerary. People in the Maldives speak Divehi, but children as young as 3 also learn some Arabic when they start school. Most of the younger islanders speak fluent English too. The literacy rate here puts most countries to shame. It is a staggering 99%. But the Maldives are more famous for something far beyond the schoolroom. It is the marine life. On dry land, the Maldives are fascinating. Underwater, it's nothing short of spectacular. Eagle rays glide through the water so warm that the average temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. The great visibility attracts divers from all over the world to marvel at the hundreds of fish, sharks and other marine creatures that fill these waters. All you have to do is sit back and enjoy the show. A shoal of barracuda draws the attention of a grey reef shark. These sharks offer a thrilling ecotourism experience for those lucky enough to encounter them. Despite being an active and curious species, they're not likely to trouble divers or snorkelers without provocation. Attracted by the abundant life on the reef, these sharks feed on reef fishes, squid, octopus, and even crustaceans such as crabs and shrimp. The apparently sedentary moray eel poses more of a threat to divers. They're attracted to sparkly things and have been known to dart out of their caves to snatch at divers' jewelry, such as rings. Their big, beady eyes are pretty useless, though, and moray eels rely mainly on their well-developed sense of smell to catch prey. Adults grow to an average of 1.5 meters in length. They sometimes venture out of their caves in search of food, such as small fish, mollusks, and crustaceans, though divers don't often get a chance to see a moray eel out in the open like this. It's a rare chance to see its fluid swimming style, an underwater ribbon. Even visitors who've never dived before can enjoy the opportunity to explore the famous waters of the Maldives. First, though, novices need to spend a bit of time at dive school. There are plenty to choose from. This one is on the beautiful Royal Island in Bar Atoll. Staff keep the diving equipment in immaculate condition, rinsing off the salt water after every outing to prevent them from perishing. Almost all dive schools offer the internationally recognized PADI dive qualification. Novice Adele gets a one-to-one tutorial from an experienced member of staff who explains in detail how every piece of kit works. She will also sit a theory test to make sure she understands everything. As soon as she's passed the theory, it's time to check her practical skills. Elsewhere in the world, new divers usually have to practice in a swimming pool before being allowed in the open water. In the Maldives, though, it's straight into the sea. First, they practice emergency signals. This means I'm out of air. And this means I'm okay. The instructor deliberately removes his regulator in order to show Adele how he would use her emergency air supply from a second mouthpiece. A more likely situation is losing your mask. Adele practices taking hers off while staying calm. The instructor then shows her how to put it back on again and clear it. Finally, Adele needs to know how to read the dive table. The deeper you dive, the more quickly your air runs out. Knowing how to use a dive table to plan how deep you can go, and for how long, could be a lifesaver. The lessons are over, and Adele is ready for her first proper dive. There are hundreds of dive sites to choose from, catering for every level. Today, they'll do a relatively shallow dive, as Adele isn't yet qualified to dive deeper than 18 meters. Most of the dive sites are just a few minutes from the islands. After a few routine final checks, she kits up, and then it's into the crystal clear waters. And there, Adele finds herself floating in a truly magical world. The instructor soon spots something exciting. It's a huge cuttlefish, a kind of mollusk, like an octopus. It has a gas-filled bone called a cuttlebone, which is more familiar to most people as a snack for budgerigars and other pet birds. Cuttlefish are masters of disguise. Their skin is covered with special cells which reflect light in many different ways, helping them to blend in with the background, ready to ambush their prey. They also have a strange blue-green blood, true aliens of the underwater world. Adele must be one of the world's luckiest first-time divers, because the next thing she sees is a highly endangered green sea turtle, a rare treat, even for those who dive here frequently. The fact that turtle numbers have crashed so dramatically is entirely the fault of humans. Turtle meat, shells and eggs are still sought after in many countries, and all green sea turtles, along with the other 6 species of marine turtle, are now threatened with extinction. Some divers also inadvertently kill them by hanging onto them for a ride, not realizing that the turtles need to come up for air. Even though this one comes so close, Adele knows not to touch it. She keeps well away from the next creature too. This lionfish is covered in sharp spines, each one packed with powerful toxins. It couldn't kill an adult human, but could still deliver an excruciatingly painful warning. After almost an hour, the air in the tank runs low. It's time to head back to land after a first dive that will be hard to beat. The spectacular diving is the result of the reef-building tropical corals which cluster around volcanic islands, forming atolls. There are 26 of these atolls in the Maldives. Every island has the same qualities: endless white beaches, crystal clear turquoise waters, and tropical vegetation. The perfect tourist destination. But don't go looking for hills. You won't find any. The islands are very flat. In fact, the Maldives hold the title for being the world's flattest country. In the last few years, the Maldives have experienced an extraordinary boom in international tourism. It has risen well to the challenge. The country offers tourist accommodation to suit every budget, many of a standard that befits their exquisite natural surroundings. Lodgings range from self-catering to luxurious. But they all share 3 glittering extras: turquoise waters, golden beaches, and emerald forests. Unwinding here is not an option. It's inevitable. And with such attentive service, you can't help but feel pampered. It all goes to show how well the Maldives have responded to tourist demand. Many resorts now include spas, which have proved hugely popular with tourists. And the country can now also meet another tourist request: for weddings. Until 2004, various legal and religious constraints prevented visitors from getting married here. But pressure from the tourist industry has changed all that, and marriages here are now legally binding, not just a glamorous ceremony. Many resorts now pride themselves on being able to offer lovers the romantic wedding of their dreams, as one happy couple is about to find out. Bella and Reka from Hungary have chosen to splash out on the ultimate wedding, and so far they're not disappointed. The experienced wedding planner has made sure that every last fairy tale detail is perfect. On the morning of the big day, trained staff help Bella get ready. A few family members have also flown in to help the couple celebrate. Almost all couples choose to hold the ceremony al fresco, usually on a beach. Bella is escorted to the beach by traditional Maldivian wedding singers. They proudly display the green and red colors of the Maldive Islands in their traditional dress. To the accompaniment of the drummers, dancers and singers and the rhythm of traditional music, the bride slowly walks towards the groom. This way, the whole island gets to see the procession and, more importantly, the beautiful bride in her wedding dress. The groom waits for her under a marquee draped in silk as she makes her way down the sandy aisle. The ceremonies aren't religious, and a registrar presides over the proceedings. Then, as the sun begins to set over the Indian Ocean, he declares Bella and Rekha husband and wife. The couple now safely married, and it's time for the party to start. Once everyone has got some champagne, the dancers start the celebrations with a traditional wedding performance in honor of the newlyweds. Bella and Rekha couldn't have dreamed of a more romantic start to their married life together. Now they can finally relax and enjoy the rest of their holiday. Elsewhere on the Maldives, other visitors are already well into the holiday mood. Most of the islands are small enough to be explored by bike. Whichever direction you cycle in, though, the destination usually looks the same: a tropical beach. The warm water soon eases away any cycling aches and releases everyone's inner playfulness. You don't have to get married here to have a romantic break, as Germans Martina and Zolt discover. After all that swimming and sunbathing, they fancy something a bit more adventurous. The seas around the Maldives are very calm, perfect for first-time jet skiers. A ride along the coast is a perfect way to explore the miles of tropical forest which tumble right down to the water's edge. Once Martina and Zolt have mastered the jet skis, it's time to get the adrenaline going and pick up some speed. It doesn't take long to learn how to maneuver a jet ski, though it's not the cheapest of activities. Hire sessions usually last 15 minutes and can cost up to $40 per person. Martina has had enough activity for the day. While she relaxes on the beach, Zolt books himself a dive, with a difference. The dive instructor introduces him to a new piece of equipment, a sea scooter. Below the surface, Salt quickly gets the hang of the sea scooter. Literally. The scooter can pull you through the water at up to 3 kilometers an hour, which means that divers can cover up to 10 times the distance on a single dive. Traveling like this means that you might miss the smaller, shyer marine animals, and there's no time to stop and explore any of the nooks and crannies in the corals. But in terms of the thrill, diving doesn't come more James Bond than this. And it's 007 all the way for Salt, who, after his dive, whisks Martina away on a donie to a secret hideout. There are so many islands in the Maldives that you can book one all to yourself. Salt and Martina will spend the night on their very own private island. The sun is beginning to set as the donie drops them off, but there is just enough time to explore their rustic lodgings. Inside, it is simply furnished, but with every comfort catered for. There is still time for a quiet, romantic walk on their private beach, complete with private sea view and private sunset, before the light disappears and it's time to let the sea breezes and lapping waters lull them to sleep. In the morning, Martina and Zsolt decide to have breakfast on the beach. There's not a soul in sight, just hundreds of hermit crabs. While the couple relax, the crabs check out the more desirable shells to see whether they're already occupied. Martina and Zsolt will have to get back to reality soon, but they still have a bit more fairy tale to live out on their own island paradise. Back on North Malé, one small dream has finally become reality.
Well, this is a banyan tree turtle research project, and what you can see now is the development of the turtle cage. I think the last time we had a very small cage, and now we have made a big cage made out of concrete pillars, and it took us about 1 month to complete it.
The new cage is almost 10 meters long, a lavish new nursery, much more spacious than the old one, to protect the baby turtles before they're released into the wild.
So now the turtles are in a beautiful cage, in a big cage, and they are happy with the other fishers and so on, and they have their friends inside. So we are now conducting our research in a fully equipped pen on this turtle research project.
Abdul and his team are clearly having an impact on the turtle population. Their numbers are growing, with more and more divers reporting turtle sightings. When they reach 1 year, it's time for them to go back to the wild. Having had a head start in life, thanks to Abdul and his team, this youngster will stand a much better chance of living to maturity.
A lot of turtles are being killed and slaughtered for meat and so on, so we need to protect this animal. It's time for this animal to go back to its home in the wild, and we will be releasing them shortly. And that will be a sad day for us, because we have been looking after them like babies and feeding them. So anyhow, we know that someday they have to go, and we hope this little beautiful creature would survive the long journey of 15 to 20 years before it could start reproducing.
The turtles are endearing without a doubt, but Abdul and his team also look after marine creatures that are far from cute, like venomous stingrays. Every day at 5 p.m, they feed the local stingrays. These giant fish are so passive that they hardly ever attack, and even if they did, the sting is rarely fatal. The stingray's eyes are on the top, so they can't see their prey. They rely instead on their well-developed sense of smell and electroreceptors to locate food. Their mouths, which are on the underside, have powerful shell-crushing teeth. These ones here have become so used to being fed by humans that they almost climb up out of the water to get their supper. Back near the new turtle cage, Abdul and this little turtle prepare for the big moment. First, a few last-minute checks and final measurements to make sure that this youngster is now big enough to be safe in the open water.
When we release them, they're about 30 or 40 centimeters, and when we release them, they will not be attacked by most predators. So we are giving a head start to these animals. Good luck, my friend. We have looked after you for a long time, and we wish you good luck. I hope you survive to become a mother.
Abdul is used to these difficult goodbyes, but they never cease to fill him with a mixture of both sadness and hope. At the water's edge, the turtle hesitates briefly. Until now, people have always carried her into the sea. Now, she's on her own, but instinct soon takes over, and she heads straight for freedom. If she survives, she will return here to this same beach to nest and lay her own eggs. But that may not be for another 20 years. And who knows, perhaps Abdul will still be here to care for her hatchlings too. This man has clearly devoted himself, life and soul, to doing what he can to save the oceans.
There's so much life in this water from the sea. When you look at it from the naked eye, you don't see anything, but when you look at it under a microscope, you'll see millions of tiny little creatures depending on us to save these oceans. So it is our duty to save the oceans rather than trying to destroy this by throwing garbage and rubbish into the ocean. And for these little tiny islands, we depend a lot on this beautiful sea.
If the Maldives manage to retain their reputation as the world's premier marine wildlife dive site, it will in no small part be thanks to the dedication of people like Abdul. And if the Maldives continue to offer what they can today, it will never fail to delight visitors. Some will come for rest, relaxation, and of course romance. Others will spend as much time as they can exploring the spectacular diversity of the underwater world. From eco-tourists to spa seekers, adrenaline junkies to beach babes. They will not be disappointed in the Maldives. The ultimate island experience.